What do you mean by the term object-oriented programming? Well, my name is Rishi Remju and welcome to the Backbench Engineering Community, where I make engineering easy for you. So, this is a question that is commonly asked among engineers. What do you actually mean by the term object-oriented programming? Well, let's find out. So, before we go into object-oriented programming, we have to know what you mean by the term a program. So, a program consists of a set of instructions that we give to the computer so that the computer can perform a particular operation. So, let me make it simple for you. So, imagine that my mother wants me to buy a packet of milk. So, my mother will come to me and tell me, give me instructions to go buy a packet of milk. So, once I get those instructions from my mother, I will go and get a packet of milk and give it to her. So, as I'm being instructed, I'm performing a particular task, which is I'm being instructed to buy a packet of milk and I'm going and buying a packet of milk. So similarly, we can give a set of instructions to the computer so that the computer can perform certain operations. So therefore, these set of instructions are given in the form of a program. So therefore, a program consists of a set of instructions that we use so that we can tell a computer to perform a particular operation. As simple as that. That is simply what you refer to as a program. So a program consists of two main things. A program is always made up of two main things. One are the variables and the other one are functions. So a program is made up of variables and functions, and these functions operate on these variables. Let me simplify that for you. So let us assume the same task in which I was given the task to go fetch a packet of milk. So here my mother declares a variable, that is I am a variable, and the function that I am given is to go fetch a packet of milk. So she could have rather chosen to give this task to my brother. So therefore, she declared a second variable, that is my brother is another variable and he can also be given the same task or same function to fetch a packet of milk. So therefore, similarly, in the case of a program, we have variables and it is upon these variables we perform such functions. As simple as that. So therefore, what we could do is that we can declare a multiple number of variables, and each of these variables can be used for the purpose of performing different functions inside a program. So this is basically how a program works. So now, before the introduction of object-oriented programming, we had something referred to as procedural programming. So in the case of procedural programming, what happened was that based on our requirements, we used to create variables and functions. So let me make procedural programming simple for you. So let us assume the case of my mother. So for her day-to-day activities, she needs to perform a lot of tasks, a lot of operations. So in the morning, she needs a packet of milk so that she can make coffee. And after that, she gets done with her work. And so that for each of her operations, she needs to do some kind of a work. So in the case of procedural programming, as and when she requires to perform a function, she then declares a variable and then performs a function. But in the case of procedural programming, they are interdependent with each other. Let us assume that my mother is baking a cake. So while my mother is baking a cake, she would require a particular set of ingredients. So first she declares me as a variable and asks me to fetch a particular set of ingredients. Then she declares my brother as a variable and asks him to fetch a set of variables. Then she declares my sister as a variable and asks her to fetch a set of variables. But in this case, if either one of the function fails, that is, if my function of fetching my set of ingredients fail, the entire program of baking the cake will fail. That is, these functions are interdependent with each other in the case of procedural programming. So therefore, in the case of a procedural programming, as and when a particular task occurs, a function is declared along with a variable. Another function is declared along with a variable. Another function is declared along with a variable. So different functions are declared as per the requirements. So in the case of simple programming, that is to find the sum of two numbers or to multiply two numbers, this procedure is more than enough. But when you start writing huge and bigger number of codes, you will end up with a lot of functions inside this F3, F4, F5. A lot of functions will be there, and you'll have a lot of variables as well. P, Q, R, S, T, L. So you will have a lot of variables, a lot of functions, and everything starts getting messed up again, because you will have to have a lot of code written inside your programs, and these codes are also interdependent. If something happens to one of this code, you will see a lot of other codes failing. So therefore this seemed to be a problem. And plus, even in this thing, we saw the repetition of codes happening. The same code was repeating again and again and again. So therefore, in order to avoid that, we introduced a new thing which is referred to as object-oriented programming. So in the case of object-oriented programming, what we did was that related variables and functions were grouped into a single entity which is referred to as an object. So therefore this is one object, this is another object. So here similar functions and similar variables were grouped into one single entity which is referred to as an object. Let me simplify that concept for you. So let us take a random object. Let us take a car. So let this be a particular car. Let us take a red Volkswagen Polo GT TSI. So in the case of a red Volkswagen Polo GT TSI, it will have a certain number of functions, and these functions are referred to as methods, and it will also have certain variables, and these are referred to as the properties. So in the case of a red Volkswagen Polo GT TSI, the properties include the fact that it is from Volkswagen company, its name is Polo, it is a red car, its fuel is petrol, it has a 1.2 liter engine, and all those things. That is, all these are the properties. That is, it is a Volkswagen car, its name is Polo, its color is red, its fuel is petrol, its engine is 1.2 liter. So all these are the properties of that car. Next, we have the methods or the functions that that car performs. So the simple basic function of a car is that we have to sit in the car and we have to be able to start the engine. So starting the engine. So if we are starting an engine, we should also be able to stop the engine. So engine stop. Then we should be able to brake the car. So these are the various methods of a particular car. So when we take a particular object, it has got both a set of properties as well as a set of methods. So therefore, this process of grouping together similar variables and functions is what you refer to as the first pillar of object-oriented programming, which is referred to as encapsulation. As simple as that. So guys, this is the basic introduction to what you refer to as object-oriented programming. As simple as that. Simply just grouping together similar variables and functions together into a single entity referred to as an object. Therefore, programming with the help of such objects is simply what you refer to as object-oriented programming. As simple as that. So in the next video, we'll be discussing about the 4 main pillars of object-oriented programming. So stay tuned for that. So I hope you guys now have a clear understanding of what you refer to as object-oriented programming. And if you guys found this video informative, do hit the like button and join this community by hitting that subscribe button. We'll be discussing about the further topics in the upcoming videos. So stay tuned, stay subscribed. Until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.